I, 28M, have been with my fiancée Melissa, 26F, for 5 years. We got engaged 2 years ago and we're planning our wedding for this summer. Everything seemed perfect until about 3 months ago when things started to change. Melissa and I met during our sophomore year of college. We were both part of the same study group for an advanced economics class. I remember being struck by her intelligence and quick wit. She had this way of breaking down complex theories that made them easy to understand. Over the course of the semester, we grew closer, often staying late in the library to review notes or grab coffee between classes. Our first official date was a disaster. I had planned a picnic in the park, but it started pouring rain as soon as we laid out the blanket. We ended up huddled under a tree, soaking wet and laughing at the absurdity of the situation. That's when I knew there was something special between us. After graduation, we both landed jobs in the same city. I went into finance while Melissa pursued a career in marketing. We moved in together after a year, renting a small apartment downtown. It was a big step, but it felt right. We complemented each other well. I was the planner, always thinking ahead, while Melissa was more spontaneous, pushing me out of my comfort zone. Our relationship wasn't without its challenges. We had our fair share of arguments, usually about small things like whose turn it was to do the dishes or whether to spend holidays with my family or hers. But we always managed to work through our issues, coming out stronger on the other side. When I proposed 2 years ago, it felt like the natural next step. I had been saving up for months to buy the perfect ring, a vintage-style diamond that I knew Melissa would love. I planned an elaborate scavenger hunt around the city, revisiting all our favorite spots from over the years. The final clue led her to the rooftop of our apartment building, where I was waiting with champagne and the ring. She said yes before I could even finish asking the question. Wedding planning started off smoothly. We agreed on most things and were excited about our future together. Melissa wanted a big wedding, which I was fine with since we both had large families and friend groups. We set a budget and started making arrangements. Melissa threw herself into the planning, spending hours on Pinterest and wedding blogs, determined to make everything perfect. About 3 months ago, Melissa's behavior began to change. It started subtly at first. She became less enthusiastic about wedding planning, often putting off decisions or leaving them to me. When I asked if everything was okay, she'd brush it off, saying she was just stressed about work. Then I noticed she was staying late at the office more often. At first, it was once or twice a week. Then it became almost every night. She'd come home looking exhausted, barely saying a word before heading to bed. I tried to be understanding, knowing her job could be demanding, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The real red flags started popping up about a month ago. Melissa became protective of her phone, always keeping it face down or in her pocket. She'd step out of the room to take calls, speaking in hushed tones. When I'd ask who she was talking to, she'd get defensive and say it was just work stuff. One night, I woke up to find Melissa's side of the bed empty. I heard her in the living room, talking softly on the phone. When I asked her about it the next morning, she claimed she couldn't sleep and was talking to her sister. But something in her tone made me doubt her. I hate to admit it, but I started to snoop. I checked her phone while she was in the shower, but found nothing suspicious. She must have been deleting her messages. I even considered hiring a private investigator, but talked myself out of it, feeling guilty for not trusting her. Things came to a head last week. Melissa said she had to work late again, so I decided to surprise her with dinner at her office. I picked up food from her favorite Thai place and headed to her building. When I got there, the security guard informed me that Melissa had left an hour ago. I called her cell, but it went straight to voicemail. That's when I knew something was really wrong. I drove home, my mind racing with possibilities. Maybe she had gone to meet a friend? Or run an errand? Deep down, I knew I was grasping at straws. When I walked in, I heard noises coming from our bedroom. My heart sank as I quietly made my way upstairs. I opened the door to find Melissa in bed with her ex-boyfriend, Alex, 27M. They were so engrossed in each other that they didn't even notice me at first. I stood there, frozen, for what felt like an eternity before clearing my throat. They both jumped, scrambling to cover themselves. Melissa's face went pale. She started crying and saying it wasn't what it looked like. But it was exactly what it looked like. I turned around and walked out without saying a word, ignoring her pleas to let her explain. I spent the night at my brother's place, ignoring Melissa's frantic calls and texts. I couldn't sleep, replaying the scene in my head over and over. How long had this been going on? How could she do this to me, to us? The next day, I went back to our apartment to gather some of my things. Melissa was there, looking like she hadn't slept either. She begged me to talk to her, claiming it was a one-time mistake and that she still loved me. I couldn't even look at her. The image of her with Alex was burned into my mind. In a moment of anger, I decided to expose her cheating to everyone. I logged into our shared wedding website and posted a message canceling the wedding due to the bride's infidelity. I included a photo I had taken of Melissa and Alex together in our bed. It was petty, I know, but I wanted everyone to know the truth. Within hours, our phones were blowing up with messages from shocked friends and family. Melissa was furious, saying I had no right to humiliate her like that. But I felt she had no right to betray me after 5 years together. Now, Melissa is trying to manipulate me into taking her back. She's telling everyone it was a misunderstanding and that I overreacted. Some of her friends are even reaching out to me, saying I should hear her out. But I can't imagine ever trusting her again. I'm struggling with what to do next. Part of me wants to just cut all ties and move on, but another part is still in love with the person I thought Melissa was. I've canceled all our wedding arrangements and moved in with my brother for now. Melissa keeps showing up at my work and my brother's place, trying to talk to me. She sent long emails explaining her side of the story, claiming Alex manipulated her and that she made a terrible mistake. But I don't buy it. She made a conscious choice to cheat. I'm feeling lost and betrayed. 5 years of my life feels like it was a lie. I'm not sure how to move forward from here. The thought of starting over at 28 is daunting. We had so many plans for the future, buying a house, starting a family. Now all of that is gone. I've been throwing myself into work, trying to keep busy. But everywhere I look, there are reminders of Melissa and our life together. I can't even go to my favorite coffee shop without thinking about all the Sunday mornings we spent there. My friends and family have been supportive, but I can tell they don't know what to say. They keep telling me I'll find someone better, but right now, I can't imagine ever trusting anyone again. I know I need to start making decisions about our shared assets, the apartment lease, joint bank accounts, even our dog. But it all feels overwhelming. Every time I think about it, I'm hit with a fresh wave of grief and anger. Any advice would be appreciated. How do I move on from this? How do I trust again? And most importantly, how do I make sure Melissa understands that we're really over this time? Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since my last post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. It really helped me gain perspective on the situation. After my initial post, things got even more complicated. Melissa continued her attempts to contact me, escalating to the point where she was calling my family members and close friends, trying to get them to convince me to talk to her. It was exhausting and infuriating. My mom, who had always loved Melissa like a daughter, was particularly upset. She kept pushing me to at least hear Melissa out, saying that 5 years was too long to throw away without a conversation. I finally agreed to meet with Melissa in a public place, mainly to tell her to leave me alone. We met at a coffee shop, and I brought my brother along for support. As soon as Melissa saw me, she burst into tears. She looked terrible, like she hadn't slept or eaten properly in days. For a moment, I felt a pang of concern, but then I reminded myself of what she had done. Melissa launched into a tearful explanation, claiming that Alex had been manipulating her for months. According to her, they had run into each other at a work conference 6 months ago. Alex had apologized for how their relationship had ended in college and asked to be friends. Melissa said she thought it was harmless at first, just catching up with an old friend. But then, Melissa claimed, Alex started threatening to reveal embarrassing secrets from her past if she didn't sleep with him. She said she felt trapped and didn't know how to get out of the situation without ruining our relationship. She swore that she had only slept with him that one time, the night I caught them. I listened to her story, but it didn't add up. If she was being blackmailed, why didn't she come to me for help? We had always been open with each other about our pasts. What secrets could be so terrible that she'd risk our entire future? When I pointed this out, she backtracked and said she was just confused and made a mistake. During our conversation, Melissa's phone kept buzzing. She ignored it at first, but then I saw Alex's name pop up on the screen. That's when I knew she was still lying. I stood up, told her I was done with her games, and left. My brother stayed behind to make sure Melissa didn't follow me. The next day, I received an anonymous email. The sender claimed to be a co-worker of Melissa's who couldn't stand by and watch her lie anymore. Attached were screenshots of text conversations between Melissa and Alex. They dated back several months and clearly showed that their affair had been going on for a while. It wasn't a one-time mistake or a case of blackmail. They had been planning meetups and exchanging explicit messages regularly. Reading through those messages was like a punch to the gut. There were texts from days when I thought we were happy, planning our future together. Days when Melissa had looked me in the eye and told me she loved me, all while arranging to meet Alex behind my back. I forwarded these screenshots to Melissa, telling her this was the last time I would contact her and that I wanted her out of my life for good. She responded with a barrage of messages, alternating between apologies, excuses, and accusations that I was being cruel and unforgiving. At this point, I decided to take more drastic action. I blocked her number and email, and I've instructed my family and friends to do the same. I've also consulted with a lawyer about getting a restraining order if she continues to harass me or show up at my workplace. On a more positive note, I've started therapy to help process everything that's happened. It's been helpful to talk through my feelings with a professional. In our first session, my therapist pointed out that it's normal to feel a range of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion, even moments of missing Melissa. He's helping me work through these feelings in a healthy way. I've also been focusing on reconnecting with friends and family who have been incredibly supportive throughout this ordeal. My college roommate, who lives in a nearby city, has been driving down every weekend to hang out and keep my mind off things. We've been revisiting old hobbies that I had let fall by the wayside during my relationship with Melissa, playing guitar, hiking, even trying our hand at homebrewing. I've moved out of my brother's place and found a small apartment of my own. It's been both liberating and scary to start over on my own, but I know it's necessary for my healing process. The apartment is in a completely different part of town from where Melissa and I lived, which helps avoid painful reminders. As for the wedding, I've managed to get refunds for most of the major expenses. Some vendors were understanding of the situation and waived their cancellation fees. I'm using some of that money to plan a trip with my best friends as a way to reset and clear my head. We're thinking of doing a road trip down the coast, something I've always wanted to do but never had the time for. Dealing with our shared assets has been challenging. We didn't own property together, thankfully, but we did have joint bank accounts and credit cards. I've frozen all shared accounts and am in the process of separating our finances. It's tedious work, but it feels good to be taking concrete steps towards independence. The hardest part was figuring out what to do about our dog, Max. We had adopted him together 2 years ago, and he was like our child. In the end, we agreed to a sort of shared custody arrangement. Melissa will keep Max, but I'll get to see him regularly. It's not ideal, but it's better than never seeing him again. Despite all the pain and betrayal, I'm starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel. It's going to be a long journey, but I'm committed to moving forward and rebuilding my life without Melissa in it. I'm rediscovering who I am as an individual, not just as half of a couple. It's scary, but also exciting in a way I hadn't expected. Thank you all again for your support. I'll update if anything significant happens, but for now, I'm focusing on healing and moving forward one day at a time. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and I wanted to share some new developments. First, the good news, I'm slowly but surely starting to feel like myself again. The therapy sessions have been incredibly helpful, and I've been focusing on self-care and personal growth. I've taken up running and joined a local photography club, both of which have been great outlets for stress. I've also been reconnecting with old friends and making new ones. Last weekend, I went to a barbecue at my coworker's place and actually had a good time. It was the first social event I've truly enjoyed since the breakup. I even found myself laughing and joking around, which felt like a huge step forward. Work has been a welcome distraction. I've thrown myself into a new project, which has been challenging but rewarding. My boss has noticed my increased dedication and hinted at a potential promotion in the near future. It's nice to feel valued and appreciated, especially after having my self-esteem take such a hit. Now, for the not so good news, Melissa hasn't given up. Despite my efforts to cut all contact, she found ways to reach out. She sent a handwritten letter to my parents' house, pleading with them to intervene on her behalf. The letter was full of apologies and promises to change. She even mentioned going to therapy to work on her issues. My parents, thankfully, respected my wishes and didn't pass along the message, but they did let me know about it. Things took a turn for the worse when Melissa showed up at my new apartment. I have no idea how she found out where I lived, but it was unsettling. She was crying and begging me to talk to her, causing a scene in the hallway. My neighbor even came out to see what was going on. I calmly told her to leave or I would call the police. She left, but not before slipping an envelope under my door. Against my better judgment, I opened the envelope. Inside was a positive pregnancy test and a note claiming the baby was mine. I was floored. We had always been careful, but I knew there was a possibility it could be true. The timing lined up, it could have been from right before I discovered her cheating. I spent the next few days in a daze, unsure of what to do. Part of me wondered if this was just another manipulation tactic. But what if it was true? Could I co-parent with someone I couldn't trust? Would I be able to love a child that was a constant reminder of Melissa's betrayal? These thoughts kept me up at night. I confided in my therapist and my closest friend, both of whom advised me to proceed cautiously. My therapist reminded me that regardless of the outcome, I needed to prioritize my mental health. My friend offered to go with me if I decided to meet with Melissa to discuss the pregnancy. After much deliberation, I reached out to Melissa via email. I kept it brief and businesslike, stating that if she was indeed pregnant, I would take responsibility for the child but that it didn't change anything between us. I requested that she take a paternity test as soon as medically possible. Melissa responded quickly, agreeing to the paternity test but pushing for a face-to-face meeting. She claimed that the pregnancy made her realize how much she truly loved me and wanted a family together. She wrote about how this could be a fresh start for us, a chance to rebuild our relationship on a stronger foundation. I remained firm in my decision to co-parent if necessary, but not to rekindle our relationship. I made it clear that all communication should be through email or our lawyers until we had the results of the paternity test. The waiting period for the paternity test has been agonizing. I've been trying to prepare myself mentally for the possibility of becoming a father while also dealing with the ongoing emotional fallout from Melissa's betrayal. I found myself looking at parenting websites and books, trying to imagine what it would be like to be a dad. In the meantime, I've been in contact with my lawyer to discuss potential custody arrangements if the child turns out to be mine. It's surreal to be planning for a future I never imagined just a few months ago. We've talked about visitation schedules, child support, and how to co-parent effectively with someone I don't trust. My family has been supportive, but I can tell they're worried. My mom keeps reminding me that a baby changes everything and suggesting that maybe Melissa and I could work things out for the sake of the child. I've had to firmly shut down that line of thinking. I know staying together for a child rarely works out well for anyone involved. I'm feeling a mix of emotions: anger at the situation, anxiety about the potential responsibility of fatherhood, and a lingering sadness over the loss of the future I thought I would have with Melissa. But I'm also determined to handle this situation with maturity and integrity, regardless of the outcome. One bright spot in all of this has been the support of my friends. They've rallied around me, offering everything from legal advice to simply being there to listen when I need to vent. My best friend even offered to be there with me when I get the results of the paternity test. As I wait for the test results, I'm trying to stay focused on the things I can control. I'm continuing with therapy, staying active with my running and photography, and putting in extra hours at work. It helps to keep my mind occupied and gives me a sense of purpose. I'll update again once I have the results of the paternity test. Until then, I'm focusing on staying strong and preparing for whatever comes next. Thank you all for your continued support and advice. It means more than you know. Update 3, it's been 2 weeks since my last update, and I finally have some closure on this whole situation. The paternity test results came back, and as many of you predicted, I am not the father of Melissa's baby. In fact, there is no baby at all. The whole pregnancy was a lie. Here's what happened. After receiving the email agreeing to take the paternity test, Melissa panicked. She realized her lie was about to be exposed and decided to come clean before the test. She sent me a long email confessing that she had faked the pregnancy in a desperate attempt to get me back. In her email, Melissa explained that she had bought a positive pregnancy test online, apparently that's a thing, and used it to create the picture she sent me. She claimed that she had initially planned to fake a miscarriage after we got back together, but realized she couldn't go through with the deception. To say I was furious would be an understatement. This was a new low, even for her. Playing with someone's emotions by faking a pregnancy is beyond cruel. I felt manipulated, used, and frankly, disgusted. I forwarded the email to my lawyer and asked about our options for a restraining order. Given this latest stunt and her previous behavior, we had a strong case. My lawyer advised me to document all instances of contact from Melissa, including the fake pregnancy claim, to build our case. I didn't respond to Melissa's email. Instead, I let my lawyer handle all communication. We filed for a restraining order, which was granted given the evidence of her ongoing harassment and the fake pregnancy claim. The judge was particularly concerned about the escalating nature of Melissa's behavior. With the restraining order in place, I finally feel like I can breathe again. Melissa is legally required to stay away from me, my home, and my workplace. It's not a permanent solution, but it gives me the space I need to heal and move on. This whole experience has been a roller coaster of emotions, but I'm coming out of it stronger. I've learned a lot about myself and what I want in a relationship. Trust and honesty are non-negotiable for me now. I've also realized the importance of maintaining my own identity and interests within a relationship. I'm continuing with therapy and focusing on building a life I love. I've been promoted at work and I'm planning a solo trip abroad next month. It feels good to be making decisions just for myself again. I'm thinking of visiting Japan. It's always been a dream of mine, and now seems like the perfect time to make it happen. My relationships with friends and family have grown stronger through this ordeal. I'm grateful for their unwavering support and for sticking by me even when things got messy. I've learned who I can really count on when the chips are down. As for dating, I'm not ready to jump back into that pool just yet. I know I need more time to heal and work on myself before I can trust someone enough to start a new relationship. But for the first time in months, I'm actually looking forward to the future instead of dreading it. To those who are going through similar situations, know that it does get better. It's not easy, and there will be setbacks, but you can come out the other side stronger and wiser. Don't be afraid to lean on your support system and seek professional help if you need it. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. Your advice and kind words have been a lifeline during some of my darkest moments. I'm looking forward to the next chapter of my life, whatever it may bring.